So
Mhm.
after that networking event, I was like, yes, this is what I need. I'm in a room with very intelligent people. I can learn.
Mhm.
That's all I wanted to do was like learn how to be great in corporate America. So when I first joined the project, I think a month into it, I found I was pregnant with my first kid.
Oh, wow.
So I'm 23 and I just started this company and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to make this work? I just started this company.
Turn this up. Turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Faranbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where we learn how to become the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. Today, I have the honor of having TianEn Stephenson on the show. She is a multi-hyphenated woman, wife, mother, executive, author, speaker. I could go on and on. She has a passion for helping others and giving them the tools and asking and getting the answers. So that was a little bit about you, TianEn. How about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here and, be present. So just like Paul said, my name is TianEn Stephenson, based here in Dallas, Texas. I am a mother, a wife. I have 4 young boys that are very energetic. So I always love to tell their names because there is power behind the names. So we have Maximus, who's 11. We have Titus, who is 8. Caius, that is 3, and Emrys, who is 7 months. So
Wow.
very active household. Yes, I'm also an executive in technology digital consulting. So been doing that my entire career, 12 years running. And then I wear a lot of hats there too. Just depends on
Oh my goodness.
depends on the project. But right now I'm serving as the product strategy lead for a discovery and assessment type project. And we're going to go into implementation whenever we get done. So that's been great. I also serve in the African American Employee Resource Group as the strategic advisor and been a part of the leadership team for the last 10 years. And then I also serve as a mentor, a coach, an instructor. Just depends on when they need me to change the hats. But outside of work, my husband and I, we have a passion for youth sports. So we have our own nonprofit youth sports program for basketball, football, and track. So we're at the cusp of football season that's going to start the regular season about 2 weeks. So a lot of ripping and running with certification, uniforms, and just getting everything to the beginning of the season. I am also a passionate runner. So growing up, I ran track in high school and college. I graduated.
What'd you run? What event?
Believe it or not, I ran the 400-meter hurdles. And obviously you cannot see my height. I'm only 5'2".
Whoa, okay.
So yes.
That's impressive, just the 400-meter hurdles. But then at 5'2", wow, even more impressive.
Yeah, so I have a twin sister. She and I, we both had full ride scholarships at the University of Colorado.
Wow.
So
at elevation too.
Legit.
You're just adding to it. So I think it's incredible because I listed off a lot of things already, and then you just listed off like even more things. So I guess my first question is, how do you do all of this stuff, or what is balance look like for you? Because I feel like there's so many things that you're doing. Like, how do you know like what? I feel like every day there's so many things going on competing for your attention.
So balance to me is more about prioritization. So literally the night before, I take inventory of like what's I got done, what needs to get done, what's more immediate, what am I trying to plan for a little bit longer. And I always write stuff down. So I always keep a pen and pad near me because thoughts go through my head really quickly. And then the morning of, I look at my work calendar, I look at my personal calendar and just align to make sure, all right, we're about to jump on this ride and go fast. So mornings are spent with the kids, getting them up, getting myself up, getting us out the door by 7 a.m, and then dropping them off, try to get home by 8. So I have 3 different stops I have to do. So trying to get home by 8 is an achievement, especially with the
Man.
congestion and traffic that is up in my area.
Mm-hmm.
So then jump on calls. It's literally anywhere from 6 to 12, 13 calls a day. It could be project work. It could be new
Wow.
assessments or proposals. It can be mentorship for some individuals. A lot. It could be anything at this point.
Yeah.
I showed someone my calendar yesterday and they're like, whoa, like, so this is the senior manager life? I was like, no, it's just my life.
This is a life you chose.
Yes. And the thing
Oh.
about it is a lot of the things I'm doing, they're all my passion. So it doesn't really feel
Mm,
like it's a burden, like, oh, I'm
mm,
dreading this. No, I'm waking up energized and I'm like, all right, let's go. What can I tackle? What can I get done? And
mhm,
keep it moving. So I thrive
mhm,
off of productivity. And that may be
mm,
kind of intuitive in a way.
mhm,
But when I can see myself checking things off, I'm like, all right, that got done. But I do take moments to press pause in my day and take a
mhm.
breather. I call it reset. So I put a little
Your
10-minute
side.
blocks in my calendar to reset and just breathe for a moment. Get some extra tea or get an extra
Mm,
glass of water or take a little snack.
mhm.
And one thing for sure, I do not miss my meals. So you will never hear me say, oh, I
Wow.
skipped lunch. Oh, I'm having a late lunch. No. I am having lunch around like 11:30, 12. It's working around
Okay.
the things, but I have blocks to make sure I
That's
eat
good.
lunch, have dinner with the family. I make breakfast most mornings with the kids and we sit down and eat together. And then I hit the ground running after that.
Wow. No, I really love that you started off just saying that it was prioritization because I feel like a lot of times we talk about work-life balance. And I personally think when I hear the word balance, I think of things being even. And I don't think that's really the
No.
case. It just really depends on the day. So really understanding your priorities. And then what you were saying, like even being intentional about making sure you block out time for different things like eating meals. I know that's something that I feel like a lot of times entrepreneurs or people with side hustles almost brag about the fact that they like skip meals or like having it in the days, which I don't agree with that. I'm like, I gotta eat. I need food.
Oh,
Like I'm
yeah.
not gonna function well. You do not want to see me hangry. So I think it's really important that you drew that out.
Yeah. Yeah, food is one thing I don't skip. And we definitely make sure we have a full pantry with these kids.
Yeah, with 4 boys, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. I love that. So for when I know you talk about a whole lot of things that you have going on, kind of talk me through like what came first, like as far as what you wanted to do with your career or coaching, mentorship, your nonprofit, like kind of like walk me through the journey that is TianEn.
So when I graduated college, that was 2011. I graduated
Mm,
with a business degree, and I was fortunate
mm,
enough to have an internship. So it's like,
mm,
okay, I got some plans. This is great. And the internship ended up being longer than it was supposed to be because I've already graduated. So they just kept me. So it was supposed to
mhm.
be 2 months. I ended up staying there 4 months. And the only reason why
Oh,
it was 4 months because I ended up finding out about Accenture. So I
okay.
think I want to say about 2 months into the internship, a family friend told me about Accenture. And I was like, what
Hmm.
is Accenture? I've never heard of this company. And she's
Yeah.
like, well, I just joined the company. You should come to this networking event. I was like, all right,
Mhm.
cool. And I actually was telling her, like, hey, I like this internship, but I feel like I need more. I want
Mm,
to, I didn't know what more was either. And
mhm,
so I think she's kind of sensed that and it's like, all right, come check it out. And so
mhm.
went to the networking event. At the time, I didn't realize how executive level that networking event was, but I was in a room with senior managers and managing directors. And I'm just
Oh
going up to
wow.
all of them and just my bubbling extroverted personality and just talking to people. And I actually had a piece of note paper and was just taking down people's names and titles. It's so funny looking back at it. I think about a year ago, I found that sheet of paper with all of those people's
Oh, wow.
names. I was like, oh my goodness, I really did
That's really
that.
cool. Yeah.
And it is so funny. Like some of those people on the piece of paper, I still keep in contact with to this day. And
Wow.
they've become mentors of mine throughout time. So after that networking event, I was like, yes, this is what I need. I'm in a room with very intelligent people. I can learn. That's all I wanted to do was like learn how to be great in corporate America. And so I thought I wanted to do campus recruiting, and that's the role that I applied for.
Okay.
And that was great. And I was like, all right, got in. And the key piece to it was they brought me in as a contractor. And I didn't
Oh,
realize that wasn't even an option.
yeah.
So
It's interesting.
very
Is that common?
it can be. I realized that it can be just depending on the corporation. And
Okay.
maybe it was like, hey, you be a contractor for so many months and then we hire you on as a full-time employee.
Okay.
But through the campus recruiting and the interview process, I was meeting all of these executives. So the final round of interviews, you're meeting a managing director, and I'm talking to them before or after their interviews and just getting to know them. And I was like, ooh, so there are a lot of different career paths I can take. And so one of the executive assistants that I met, she reached out to me. It's like, hey, would you be interested in switching over from recruiting into, at the time it was called mobility services. And this is like mobile apps. And
Okay.
so this is still 2011. And I was
Oh, wow.
like, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. And this is before everything was tap and everything was as accessible and as saturated as it is in the mobile app world. And so I was like, yeah, this is like cutting edge technology. Let me jump over. So I jumped over, started doing sales operations for the group and meeting executives, because the people that were leading the sales were all of these senior managers and managing directors. So I'm getting to learn from top leaders. And so fast forward 10 months as a contractor altogether, they finally hired me on as a full-time analyst. And so starting at entry level, came in with some months at level. My manager at the time found me my first role, which was a mobile wallet. So imagine a time before Apple Pay came out.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I
I
was
didn't think
doing
about
that as a tester. So we're trying to make sure the NFC technology, the technology to make sure the tap works, making sure that works. And we're trying to put geolocation into a wallet. We're trying to put your credit cards and loyalty cards, all of this in one wallet. But the technology wasn't working great.
Of course
It's
not.
my role to really break it, but then to try to make sure it works and meets the requirements, it meets the expectation of the functionality. And the funny thing about it, so when I first joined the project, I think a month into it, I found I was pregnant with my first kid.
Oh, wow.
So I'm 23 and I just started this company, and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to make this work? I just started this company. I'm gonna have to tell them I have to use their benefits. Like, what does this mean? That was my fear. I was like, I gotta use benefits. I had no clue, what that really meant. And I'm so thankful for my project manager. So I set up time with her. And I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And, scared little 23-year-old me, not knowing what to expect, she was the most supportive person.
Wow.
The fact that she was a woman, the fact that she had 2 kids, the fact that she's been
Just
in my
understood.
shoes, she totally understood what I was going through and answered every single little question I had, it as simple or as big. And obviously, because of the good work I had done on the project, I was able to take my maternity leave and come back to that project.
Wow.
And so that was really great for me because the project was local. I didn't have to jump on a plane. That was my biggest worry. It's like, oh, I still want to be a career woman. Do I have to jump on a plane right away? Do I have to go to a new client? What if that client is terrible? And and all of that. But just the stars aligning, I was
Yeah.
able to go back to that project. I went through 2 promotions on that project over two and a
Wow.
half years.
Wow.
So already,
Promotions in 2.5 years. Wow.
and so even at that time, I started to step up into leadership roles. Even on that project, I went from a
Mm,
tester to defect manager. So running the show, making sure we close out defects, being a little bit of the, chase down people to make sure we're meeting the requirements.
mm-hmm.
And let's fast forward even longer. I mean, even further. 5 years into my career, I got promoted to manager. So that was the third
Wow.
promotion. And by that time, I also had 2 kids. And then I keep having kids. And so the funny thing is, the joke with some of my friends at the company is that every time I have a kid, I get promoted. So they're like, hey, with this last one, are you going to get promoted again? I was like, I don't think I want to get promoted that quickly. Let me still learn some more things
Mhm.
at my current level. So the biggest promotion to senior manager, I went on maternity leave for about 6 months, came back and still got promoted with working only, half a fiscal year. And so
Wow. That's impressive.
it's
That just shows how good you are.
it also shows the type of support I have and
Mm,
the track record I have as far as
mm,
high performer, always delivering, making sure I take care of the people, doing things in the practice. So it's that I had a whole comprehensive story that
mhm,
resonated and showed that, hey, I'm already performing at the next level. So I give it to
mm,
my support system, my sponsors. They definitely helped build my story and also kept my um kept my presence known even when I was on
mhm.
maternity leave.
That's really incredible. Just how far you've been able to come, and I think it's funny that you're getting promoted right after you were having kids, just like I like clock, or just a running joke with people. That is so incredible. But I want to talk because like you have the shirt on, and you just released a book not too recently as well. Closed mouths don't get fed, which I love the title. And I think a lot of it has come from, yeah, and you have it up there. For those of you watching on YouTube, she held it up. So that's another reason you should be watching, not just listening. But I want to make sure we get to talk about the book. Like, what inspired you to write the book? What are some key things that people can expect from the book as well?
So the main reason for writing the book was to help others on their journey. The fact that I
Mhm,
saw as much success as quickly as I did, I was like, hey,
mhm,
there's something to this. And then obviously with me
mhm,
mentoring people and I was telling people a lot of the same lessons, I was like, ooh, I should write a book to help more people. And
mhm,
it really started to come to life after I became a manager because I was like, who gets promoted in 5 years 3 times and still have 2 kids and do all of
yeah,
this?
it's just the
And
life. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And it all came to this saying my dad told me. So my dad always told me, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't tell
Mm,
me, how can I help you? And so
mm,
I started to carry that mentality at work and just asking questions a lot of time out of curiosity, just to gain knowledge.
mm,
But then also, how can I help others? How can I help the practice? How can I help this so I can learn something else on the job that may lead to other opportunities? And then when I
mhm.
started to reflect on my journey after the manager promotion, I was like, I should write this book. It just came to
Just the
me.
time.
And then the
Yeah.
title was clear. I was like, hey, it's gonna be this. And then I started to unpack what the mantra meant to me. And that's how
Mm.
the themes and everything came out of the book.
Wow. Just drawing a lot from your life story and like what your dad told you as well. I like that a lot. Is there any particular story, either from the book or from your life, that really you go back to, like as either a key moment or maybe a sponsor or mentor that you just always come back to that moment that kind of like shifted things?
So leading up to the promotion to manager, I was on a project that I thought was going to go well. I went there as the test architect to present best practices and to improve the testing efforts of the client's team.
Mhm.
And things are going smoothly and whatnot. And it was, I guess, the premier project because anytime I spoke to a leader on the account team, they were like, "Oh yeah, I heard about that project. I heard you're doing great things. This is phenomenal." I was
Mm.
like, Okay, thank you." I'm like, how do you know this?" And
Yeah.
so, and I had a very short window on that project to prove my promotion, and because I just got back from maternity leave.
Shocking, right?
So I got on that project in March of that year. So I had to
Okay.
build the case for the promotion on this project from March to about July because talent discussions were
Wow.
going to happen like late July, August. So there's a
Wow.
lot of things that happen on that project, which is like, okay, the good and the bad. The good
Mhm.
thing that I did that I didn't realize was going to be as impactful was that as soon as I got on the project, I quickly understood the expectations, what I was doing. But then maybe a few weeks later, I met with my delivery lead and I told him my intentions. Like, hey, I
Mhm.
want to use this project to get promoted. I know I'm brought
Mhm.
here as the test architect, but what can I do or what can I take off your plate to prove that I'm, um, performing at a manager level? And he's like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, we can try to make that work. And so he's like, well, pretty much you could take off a lot of the things that I'm doing as a delivery lead to show that. So you can
Wow.
help with the onboarding, you can help with invoicing, you can help with the strategy and the status reports. And he gave me a few other things. I was like, all
Wow.
right, cool. So I'm doing my job, I'm doing this. And then the role kind of expanded to be the test lead of the entire team, not just
Oh,
not
wow.
as a
The
strategic
whole team?
advisor, but the whole team. So at the time, the team was 35 individuals, but then the client
Man,
wanted to grow the team to about 80.
80?
So I had to help interview people for the role. I had to onboard them. I even went to their location to do some training, some basic
Mhm.
testing training. And
Mhm.
so I did that for like a week. I was away and doing that. And so everything's going well. I'm interacting with the client. I'm having meetings with the client's boss and
Mhm.
his boss. So I'm, showing up the right way. So as the
Mm.
contract was ending, so the contract was supposed to end in August. So in
Mhm.
July, the client, the main person I'm working with, she started to switch it up on me a little bit. So
Really?
yeah, so this is the bad side. But the
Oh,
thing is
man.
too, it did not stop the promotion. So remember that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
one day she reached out and was like, "Hey, send me a list of the activities you're doing today." I was like, that's reasonable. So I sent her a
Mhm.
list of
Mhm.
everything I'm doing. And
Mhm.
so she took that back to my delivery lead and had a meeting about, "Hey, Tiana is not doing the role that she's supposed to be doing." And she took the list that I gave her. She took the statement of work of what described my role and was
What?
like complaining about that.
Are you serious?
She had something out for me. And
It seems
she
like
had
it.
three other
Yeah.
complaints too. She had a whole list. But
Wow.
because the delivery lead knew who I was, he knew what I was
Mhm.
doing because I was talking to him on a regular basis, giving him updates, over
Okay.
communicating with him just so he
Oh, wow.
understands like, hey, I'm performing, I'm doing everything. So he had my back in that conversation. So when she came with that
Mm.
statement, he's like, well, actually, you're right. She's actually doing 3 roles for you right now. And we're only charging you for one at a discount. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, like he came. And the thing is too, because we have that good working relationship, he came back
Yeah.
and told me what she said. He
Wow.
showed me the email. He showed me
Wow.
and told me how the dialogue went. But that's
Mhm.
because as I would call it, I had him in my
Mm.
boat or board of directors. And he
Yeah.
knew what I was about. He knew my intentions. He knew that, hey, I'm doing the work. I'm doing more than what the role required of me. And so at the end of that conversation, he's like, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the difference in personalities, but you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. I was like, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
how does this impact my promotion? I was like, oh, like, because, you know, client feedback has a part in the feedback.
Oh, yeah.
But because of my delivery lead to having my back and can prove what I was doing, he's
Mm,
like, you're still good. I was like, okay,
that's
I can breathe.
powerful.
Whew.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and obviously I also got additional sponsors or advocates to back it up too. So even though
Mm,
I'm communicating directly with my delivery lead, I'm also communicating
mhm,
with his boss. It's like, hey, I want you to hear
mm,
from my mouth of what's going on. I want you to know
yeah.
what I am delivering. Granted, he may be telling everything correctly, but you know who I am, you know what I'm doing. And
Mm,
so a few months later, when talent outcomes came out, I get promoted. I'm like, okay, this can still work despite the negatives or despite the hiccups or the challenges. I've had a lot
mhm,
of other projects where I've had challenges or I made mistakes, but that was
mhm,
not, it was never held against me. I could say that, hey, I still was able to turn it around,
mhm.
rectify it, make sure I can leave the project still on good terms.
No, that's really powerful. I love that story, especially what you mentioned about the communication piece with him. So he knew exactly what you were doing and able to refute what the client is saying. Like she's not doing one role, she's doing three roles, and it's at a discount. Like that right there is a bar. And just having the relationship you had with him, for him to even have that conversation to share that with you and just to reassure that you're still getting the promotion, that you're doing the work. I think that's something that we don't always, not everyone, but we're not always intentional about communicating the work that we're doing. Like, yes, you should do the work, get stuff done. But if no one knows what you're doing, then at the end of the day, like they can't really defend you. They can't be that support or sponsor for you. And I feel like in this case.
Exactly. So I wrote a whole chapter around the concept of getting people in your boat. So it's called All
Mm,
Aboard. And I
all
go through
aboard.
what it
Like that.
means to have people in your boat. And the biggest message around that is you want to get the people in your boat early and you want to stay connected with them often. Because if you get them
Mm,
in early, then y'all can figure out strategize versus being reactive to situations. You can work through
mm,
challenges, you can work through whatever things that may come your way together
mhm.
versus having to be defensive or like, oh, I got to recorrect this or I got to explain what happened. No, if they're in your boat
Yeah.
and you're communicating with them, as often as you should, let's say once a week or
Mhm.
every other week, then they know what's
Mhm.
happening and you don't have to
Yeah.
wait to the end of the year and say, hey, here's a summary of what I did. They already know.
Mm.
And they like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, all of this is true. I remember seeing those deliverables. I remember seeing, what happened, the impact of that. So yeah, Tiana, oh yeah, that's a no brainer. Yeah, promotion.
Mhm.
That's what you want people to say when you're going up
Mhm.
for promotion. It's like, oh, I thought she was already a senior manager. Oh yeah, let's get her to senior manager. But that's what
Mm.
it looks like when you have those people backing you. And it's not
Mhm.
just even on my project. So being in consulting, you have to stay connected with the people on your project, but then you also have to stay connected with the home base, with your practice. So I make
Mm.
sure I do regular meetings with people in my practice with the leaders who I don't work with every day. Maybe I touch base once a
Mhm.
quarter or once a year,
Mhm.
depending
Mhm.
on if they have a seat at the decision table.
Mhm.
So those people know what's going on. Even when me
Mhm.
taking maternity leave, I still intend people to know what I've been up to and know like, hey, this is what I'm going towards. This is when I'm trying to get promoted next. From even though
Mhm.
it's a couple years away, they already know. They've been put on notice.
Yeah, I put on notice. I love the intentionality you have around that, and even like you have a whole chapter dedicated to getting people on board. Uh, how did you put it
Get
for
people
that?
in
For
your
that,
boat.
getting people in your boat. So I think that's really crucial, because if we're not intentional about that, then you're just kind of waiting for things to happen. I think a lot of people get frustrated when things don't happen because they expect it to just happen naturally,
Right.
which sometimes it does. But I had a mentor tell me once that you are the person that cares the most about your career. It's like, he told me, like, I'm your mentor, but at the end of the day, it's on you. So like the questions you're asking, what you're seeking after, the people you're getting in your boat, all those things, it's on you. So you can't just say, rely on the mentor or sponsor to do everything. Like, they can be in the room, the rooms that you're not in, but really being really intentional, and the communication piece is really crucial.
Exactly. Like we have to be the ones to get them prepared, to make their job
Mm-hmm.
easier to vouch for us. So we shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
expect a mentor or a sponsor to write our story for us. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
in my realm of work, we have to write our story, and our people leads or internal managers are the ones that would tell our story.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't expect my people lead to write the story. No, I
Mm-mm.
have it verbatim what I want him
Yeah.
to say, and it's a lengthy list. So right now I'm actually trying to shorten that list. I was like, all right, let me get the most impactful pieces out there. And then if he has extra
Yeah.
time, he has all of these extra bullets if he has enough time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the intentionality is key.
Mm-hmm.
Intentionality and curiosity will take you a long way. If you're curious enough, you're going to make an effort to find the answers. You're going to make an effort to
Mm-hmm.
Google it or to figure out what it means, or like, hey, I don't know what this term means. Let me look that up. That's when you know you're heading in the right direction. And when you're prepared for things, then it's a lot easier to get to that yes. And it's a lot easier, or it may feel a little bit more natural that it's
Mm-hmm.
happening. Because I start to realize, like, oh, that was easy. I got a yes for that training that was, external and required travel. They said yes. But then when I
Mm-hmm.
reflect back on it later, I was like, oh yeah, he known me for 2 years. He's, this manager, I have regular monthly conversations with him, and he knows I'm doing the great work. And this is another story. So I'm a part of an organization called IT Senior Management Forum. And it's an organization that focuses on the development and advancement of Black tech leaders. So you
Wow.
got CIOs, CTOs, CISOs, CEOs in this
Wow.
organization, and they have different academies or development programs to help leaders. So I found out about it in 2018 in this thing called the Emerge Forum. They mentioned about the academy called the Emerge Academy, which is focused on diverse women. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, I need to be in this. This is right when I became a manager. So I'm like, I was still trying to figure out, like, okay, what is my management style?
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming up with a lot of fallacies too in my
Mm-hmm.
head. I was like, ooh, I got to prove
Uh,
myself. And
mm-hmm.
so when I heard about the academy, I was like, I need to be here. Immediately, I was like, I need to be here. And I think the application was due in 3 weeks.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was like, all right, I'm going to put the application in. I'm going to also submit the external training request. I hope they pay, but I will figure out the finances. But I'm going to at least give myself a chance to get accepted. And then I'm going to work
Mm-hmm.
the money out in the background. So I submitted the
Mm-hmm.
application. I drafted the external training request, submitted the brochure, and the reason why I wanted to join it. And I also put the cost of tuition and the cost to 5 cities, because we were meeting in person at the time for 5 times.
Okay.
And I got a yes. So
Wow.
if I had to guess how much that all cost, that was probably $20,000 or more for the
Wow.
tuition and the travel.
Man.
So I was like, okay, that was easy.
Yeah. You made
Like
it seem
I
so
didn't
easy.
have a
Yeah.
struggle or like a back and forth to build my business
Mm.
case. It was just yes. I was like, okay.
That's, wow. That's really impressive. I love that story and the stories you shared so far. But we're almost out of time, but I want to
No.
make sure. Yeah, I know that flew by. It went by really quick. But we do have time to, if there's anything that we haven't talked about yet, or either yourself, the book, or maybe some words of advice for people listening that you want to share before we close things out?
So I have a saying, or I guess like a little
Mhm.
phrase of be intentional, be curious, and be fearless. And that takes a summary of the book of just, hey, if you're intentional on what you want to do, where you want to go, who you need to meet, you will start to build that curiosity. And that curiosity will lead you to questions and will lead you to
Mhm.
seeking the answers, whether it's doing some research, talking to mentors or confidants, like, hey, I'm trying to go
Mhm.
after this promotion. Did I do all the right things? Did I talk to all the right people? Did I set it up the right way? And
Mhm.
even use those mentors to practice the ask. And then you start to build that confidence like, okay, yeah, I did all the right things. All right,
Mhm.
cool. Then you go to that leader to ask them for that raise, ask them for the promotion, ask them for those opportunities. And then you realize, like, oh, they said yes. Oh, they gave me the answers.
Wow.
Oh, they've
Mm.
given me more answers. Oh, I didn't realize I needed to know that. Being fearless and confident in your ability to ask, be the first person to tell ourselves yes. Because when we tell ourselves
Mhm.
yes, we give the opportunity to get the ask out there and to see
Mhm.
what the possibilities can be. And a lot of times, those possibilities are bigger than what we imagine. And that's what I've seen in my career. That's what I'm
Mhm.
seeing now with the fact that I released the book. I'm seeing even more opportunities and it's becoming bigger than what I hoped. And now
Wow.
I'm like, all right, I have a whole vision with this. So there's more to come, Paul. So,
Yeah, can we hear the vision?
oh, the vision.
You got me curious about it. Like, so we can look back at this episode. I want to hear the vision. If you're comfortable sharing, if you're so
Yes,
formulated, that's fine. But yeah.
I'm always comfortable. I tell people I'm an open book. If you
Mhm.
ask, you'll get some type of answer. It may not be what you
Yeah.
expect, but you will get an answer.
Fair
And
enough.
so, and then also true, also to the fact of that, it's also true consulting of it depends. So everything is
Mm.
ever changing, everything is
Mhm.
ever flowing. And so with the vision that I have right now, so now that I've published the book, I'm also going to work on the audiobook. I'm also
Mm.
working on the workbook. So I just don't want to
Ooh,
tell my
okay.
story. I want people to apply the lessons to their own lives and see the results for
Mhm.
themselves. Like, I don't
Mm.
want to just say, hey, let me just talk to you. No, let's push you to action. Let's see this in real life. And that what excites me is just helping people. So I've had people reach out to me like, hey, I read your book and I actually asked, and this is what's happening. Like people have contacted me on LinkedIn or email, and I'm like, yes,
Wow.
let's go, let's go. And so this is where
I
some of the
love that.
coaching comes into play because I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm your biggest cheerleader.
Mhm.
And also the fact that I like to coach, I like to help people or serve people.
Mhm.
I am bringing this as a mentoring community. I'm also building some courses that I'm hoping to release sometime next year. I'm
Wow.
trying to slow myself down because my original thought was to release all of this in October. That was my
Oh,
original
wow.
plan. And I was like, slow down. You
That's
have
a lot.
time. So
Yeah.
I'm staggering this a little bit better so
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
go days and days without sleep.
Yeah, sleep's important just as much as food.
Exactly. So,
Mhm.
the workbook is the next piece. I'm also working
Okay.
on a children's book,
Oh,
same
wow.
title, but for kids. And I'm
Yeah.
working with one of my cousins to do the graphics. He's always been a phenomenal artist. I'm like, yes,
That's
let's
amazing.
work together.
Mhm.
And so there's that. I also am working on the second book, second professional book.
Mhm.
And I'm also working on poetry. But the grander piece of this is to eventually host conferences and workshops and continue to do
Mm.
speaking engagements. So I'm already doing workshops, I'm already doing speaking engagements. I'm
Mhm.
just going to bring it to scale next year.
Wow. I love that vision. I love everything that you're working on and doing. That is really incredible.
Thank you, Paul.
No, I appreciate your time being on the show. I know we were talking a little bit earlier just about how busy you are, all the stuff you have going on, but you make the time for the listeners. It has been truly incredible.
I appreciate it. Yeah, this has been a joy, and I definitely look back to coming back to the show and, giving an update.
Yeah, we can make that work for sure. But I want to make sure people know how to connect with you, find the book, so share all those things. It'll come for those watching on YouTube. It'll come across the screen as she says it. If you're listening, you can go to the show notes. But if you can share how people can connect with you and get your book as well.
Yes, so people can purchase my book on Amazon or on my website, TianEnStephenson.com. So just my name. And if you order also on my website, you get a signed copy. So pick and choose, whichever way.
I think the website is the better option based on what you said. It's like signed copy or just a regular copy. I think that's pretty easy for me.
Yes. And then I'm also on social media. So LinkedIn, TianEn Stephenson, Instagram, Ask TianEn, or if you just put TianEn Stephenson, I'm literally the only one in the world with my name. I'll take that. And then I'm also on Facebook, TianEn Stephenson, and then I'm on TikTok. So wherever you want to find me, I try to do a little bit of video, so I'm still working through that. But I post very frequently. I like to just give inspiration, give motivation. We all need a little, a little pick me up in our days.
Yeah.
And you can definitely catch me on my book tour. So I have about 8 cities on the map so far, and I just got requests for 3 more in the last 24 hours to come to some more cities. So yes, next up is New York City in September. So September is New York City, Wilmington, Delaware, Philadelphia, and then I also have St. Louis in October.
That's my hometown.
So my website, it has all of the events coming up, and it stays updated, and you can just see where I'm going to land.
Awesome. That is so remarkable. I love that. I love hearing about your story from what you just even coming into working at Accenture, and then even the conversation you were having with your manager, learning like when you first found out you were pregnant and just understanding that you can still continue to just understanding the resources. And I'm still laughing at the fact that every time you were having a child, that you're coming back, getting a promotion. And this whole concept of closed mouths don't get fed, like you are the model for it. You are the person that was meant to write this book. Clearly, that it is so incredible. Like what you were even saying, that being intentional, being curious, and being fearless. I think that is a really great way to be incredible. So I hope for those of you listening that you got something from this episode. Thank you so much for making the time, TianEn. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible.